Hello, this is Billy, Indiana, coming back to you with another edition of Sushi Roll. Last time I went through an unboxing and showed you what was in the box and all the different components. And today I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of how you play the game, and then also a review, my opinion on the quality of the game, the mechanisms of the game, what I like about it. Also compare it a little bit to Sushi Go and Sushi Go Party, which are a couple of games that I enjoy and that are very obviously closely related. So I've got everything laid out here on the table. You can see the overall game here. I've taken most of the components out, so we'll set the box aside for now. And I'm going to set up for a 3-player game and sort of walk you through a few turns of how that game would work. So these are the player boards, and the player boards have both kind of a menu of scoring, and then also, so we'll kind of make a group of 3 here, have a menu of scoring, and then also the platter. So the red part at the top is the platter, where you put your food as you decide what you're going to eat. And I'll play the middle one, and I'll be the starting player. And then let's get this up a little bit. And that'll be the 3rd player, and this will be the 2nd player. And these gray parts are the conveyor belts. So if you've been to one of those sushi restaurants that has the sushi going around on a conveyor belt, that's what's being simulated here. Then there are also some other components here. We've got the pudding tokens. And the pudding tokens, if you've played Sushi Go or Sushi Go Party, you're going to find out that a lot of the play and a lot of the scoring even is very similar. But if you haven't, the pudding is one of the things you can order. And as you order it, it doesn't actually earn you any points during the flow of the game. It only earns you points at the end of the game, or it actually can cause you to lose points at the end of the game. And then these are the menu tokens, and they actually say re-roll right on them, so that's a pretty good hint as to what's going to happen. You get to re-roll your dice, as this is a dice game as opposed to a card game like Sushi Go. These are the swap tokens, and they have little pictures of chopsticks on them, and you can use those to swap some of the sushi from someone else's conveyor belt to yours. You can't take them off their platter. Once they put it on their plate, you can't steal it, but while it's on the conveyor belt still you can. And then the last baggie here of goods is the winners or victory tokens or point tokens, and that's how you keep score. And then obviously we've got our nice bag of dice. I believe there's 25 dice in the bag if I remember, and you do roll the dice obviously to get this game to function, or this how the game functions. So for 3 players, you play with 7 dice apiece, and everybody starts with 2 of the swap tiles. And this is actually stated at the bottom on this. Let me see, we can switch it over here to the close-up and give you a chance to see that. So at the bottom, you can see start of the game, you get 2 of the swap tiles, and you get 3 of the menu tiles, and then it also shows on here the different scoring, and we can focus in on that later as well. The other camera, and then 3 re-rolls for each player. All right. Another thing about the setup is when you're playing with any number of players, one of the conveyor belts that you use needs to be the one with the red outline. And there are 5 conveyor belts and 5 player boards, so you can play with up to 5 people at a time. But the one with the red outline indicates who starts. And so once you've decided who starts, you reach into the bag, and for 3 players, like I said, you pull out 7 dice. And I've chosen to do a 3-player simulation because there's a couple of different rules that are special for 2-player and 3-player. And for 3-player, there's one in particular that I just want to highlight, and it also gives a little bit of variety as opposed to just a straight-up 2-player. So let me see if I can count 7 here. Hopefully I've got 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. And so you pull 7 out of the bag, and then you're going to roll those 7. So I'll roll them here. and just show you a couple of the options that you can roll. So of the 7 that I picked out, I happened to pick one of the blue or purple ones, and you can see that this side that I rolled is a dumpling. There's also tempura on this one, and there's also sashimi on this one. But this time I happened to roll a dumpling. And then these are nigiri, and I rolled a squid nigiri, which is the most points type of nigiri. Then there's also salmon, and then there's also egg, which you can see on the other one that I revealed, but squid is the best. This is another nigiri dice. And then this is the pudding, and then you can see I rolled a triple pudding. And the pudding only has 1s, 2s, and 3s of pudding on it. There's no other different things to roll. These are the maki die, and they have 1, 2, or 3 maki on them. And then this one has chopsticks on one side, which means you can get more of those swap tiles. So 1 means you could get 1 more, and that's what I rolled. 2 means you could get 2 more chopsticks. There's also double menus on here, so you can actually get more re-roll tiles. And then there's also wasabi. And wasabi only works, it doesn't earn points by itself, but it works if you have it on your plate, and then you get nigiri. You can dip the nigiri into the wasabi, and the egg nigiri is worth 1 point, the salmon is worth 2, and the squid is worth 3. But if you dip it into the nigiri, or dip it into the wasabi, you get triple points. And so that's how that works. But I actually only rolled a single chopstick. So that's my roll. And what I would do then is I would take those dice and then move them to my player board, my conveyor belt here, without changing any of what they showed. And so that's my first roll of 7 dice. And then the other players will do the same. So the next player would pull out 7. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, okay. And then they're going to roll. And then they're going to put whatever their roll shows onto their conveyor belt. And so here's the second player. You can see they happen to draw a lot of those purple dice. And that's what they rolled. They got 2 tempura and a dumpling and a salmon nigiri, a single pudding, a chopsticks, and a sashimi is what they rolled. And then the third player would pull out 7 dice. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 1 too many, so 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay. And so they would roll them, and then whatever they roll, they put onto their conveyor belt. All right. All right, you can see for this person, they happen to roll a dumpling, a double and a triple maki, a single pudding, 2 menus, a tempura, and an egg nigiri. And so now we've all drawn our 7 dice, and we've rolled the dice, and so we are ready to begin the game. And like I said before, the player that has the red outline on the conveyor belt is the one that goes first. Now, every turn you have 2 options. One thing that you can do is to use either a menu or a swap tile. So the menu would let you re-roll. So if you're just not happy with some of the dice that you have or any of the dice that you have, you can roll from 1 die all the way up to all the dice that you have on your conveyor belt. And so right now, this early in the game, probably not a real big reason for me to try to re-roll. If I see something on someone else's conveyor belt, though, I may want to use one of my swap tiles to take one from their conveyor belt. Now, if I take one from their conveyor belt, I put one from my conveyor belt onto theirs. And so that's how that swap works. My family's been kind of joking around. We may sometime try to use actual chopsticks to do that swap and see if we can pick up those dice and move them with real chopsticks. It's be a little bit of a dexterity event. So I don't know if we'll try that or not. I'm not great with chopsticks. But those 2 are optional things you can do at the beginning of any turn. And really, you can do them at any point in the turn as well. So you can use a re-roll and a swap. You can use a swap and a re-roll. You can use multiple re-rolls. You only get to play, though, 1 dice per turn. And that's the second thing. In every turn, you could do a menu just to re-roll. You could do a chopsticks to swap. But you must play 1 dice. So that's the one thing that you do is you choose 1 die and you put it onto your plate. Since I'm the starting player, I'll look at mine, and I would probably choose pudding. Now, pudding won't give me any points now, but at the end of the game, and the game lasts 3 rounds, at the end of the game, the player with the most pudding earns 6 points, and the player with the least pudding earns -6. And so with a triple pudding and nothing super great, I mean, the squid's nice, but without any wasabi, it's just 3 points. It's nothing spectacular by itself. But knowing that I can start off right away with a triple pudding, that's pretty good. Then this next player here, he sees he's got a lot of these purple die, and the way the scoring works for the purple die, and you can see it here on the chart, and we can maybe do a little bit of close up here and give you some more info on that. So if you see across the top, it shows you the white dice, and there on one die that's white, there are 2 eggs, 3 salmons, and 1 squid. And the eggs are worth 1 point, the salmon's worth 2, and the squid's worth 3. On the red dice, it's only maki. There's 2 sides with a single, 2 sides with a double, and 2 sides with a triple maki. You can see for the maki, though, at the end of each round, not the game, but the end of each round, the person with the most gets 6 points, and then the second most gets 3. And in this game, any ties mean both players earn that amount. You don't split it, you earn the total amount. For the purple dice, half of the sides have dumplings, and if you get 1 on your plate, you have 2 points. 2 on your plate gives you 4, but if you get that third dumpling, that's 8 points. 2 of the die sides on the purple have tempura, and if you only have 1 on your plate at the end of the round, you get 1 point. But if you get 2, that's 5, and if you can get a third, that's 10. And then for the sashimi, if you just get 1 of those on your plate, not worth any points. But if you get 2, it's 6 points, and if you get 3, it's 13. Now, if you happen to get more than this, let's say you end up with 4 dumplings, you would get 8 for your first set of 3, and then you'd get 2 more for the beginning of your second set. And so you'd end up getting 10 points if you had 4 dumplings. And that would work the same for tempura and for sashimi. Then you can see the green dice. It has the wasabi on 2 sides, the double menus on 2 sides, and the chopsticks, 1 with a single and 1 with a double. And then the pudding dice has 2 sides with only a single, 2 with a double, and 2 with a triple. So that lets you see how the scoring goes, and you can see there at the bottom it says that the pudding is only end of game scoring. So the most gets 6 points, and the fewest gets -6. You can also see the start of the game. It reminds us there that each player starts with 2 of the swap tokens and 3 of the menus. And at the end of the game, for every 2 of those tiles, you get 1 point, and it's mix and match. So you just add them up and divide by 2 to see how many points you would get for that. So that is the player board and how it indicates the scoring. So as this player goes, and I'll try to pick up the pace just a bit here in terms of getting the game going, but I want to try to introduce as much of it as I can in case you don't know much about the game. So this player might say, you know what, there's a lot of purple dice in this round, and so I'm going to say they'll probably try this sashimi to see if they can get that 13 points for getting 3 of them. And then the third player to go this round looks, they see that this person's already trying to get sashimi, so if 2 people start going after that, that gets pretty difficult. The single pudding's not so great, the 1 egg is not really good. So I think they might say, you know what, let's go for tempura and see if we can get some tempura. And then once they've all played, the conveyor belt moves. And so we slide them clockwise. And since they are sliding clockwise, now this player has the red outline conveyor, and so they are now the first player for this turn of the round, and we're still in the first round. So a round is till all the dice are played on the plates, and then at the end of the round you score that round, and then you do 2 more rounds. After 3 rounds you do end of game scoring, and the one with the most points wins. Let's do a couple more turns in this first round just to give you an idea about some of the other options that might come up, and then we'll go to end of round and end of game scoring after that. So every time that the conveyor belts move, you don't just get to choose from what's on that conveyor belt. So this is where it's if you've played Sushi Go or Sushi Go Party, this is where it is different. In those games, you have the cards and the cards stay the same. Here, once the conveyor belt has moved, the dice that are on the conveyor belt get re-rolled. And so this player ends up getting a double menu and a single maki, a double maki and a dumpling, and 2 salmon nigiri. And then this player rolls, and you start with the 1. You can actually all roll simultaneously, but since I have to do that all myself, I'm just going to go in the order of starting player. And so player 2, that's their new 6 options. And then for myself, I've got wasabi and triple maki, I've got a single pudding and a double maki, and I've got a squid with a dumpling. Now it'd be great if I could play that wasabi with the squid, but you can only play 1 at a time, and it's not my turn anyway, the red outline goes first. And so this player is looking around, probably looking to see, did anybody get a sashimi that they could swipe? But nobody did, and they themselves did not either. So they may want to consider taking that the double re-roll so that they have 2 more menus and have a chance to get some of these sashimi. So I think they'll do that. They'll take the double re-roll, which just gets them 2 of these menu tokens, which means now they've got a chance to re-roll 5 times. So if they get desperate for that sashimi towards the end of the round, they've got opportunity. And this person was taking tempura, but they've also got a wasabi here, so they're going to have to make a choice. If they take the wasabi, they see that there's 2 more nigiri coming very next turn, and so they could get that wasabi and then triple whatever nigiri they pair with it. But then they're taking a risk that the tempura will not come back around, and so I think they're going to take the risk though. So this player goes with the wasabi, and then for myself, I am going to go for the wasabi as well. All right, and that's the end of that turn, and the conveyor belt moves. And again, every time the conveyor belt moves, we all re-roll. So I'm going to re-roll for this player first, just first. And again, like I said, technically you can just all re-roll at the same time. You only have to actually play the dice in order so that if there's any swapping going on, that the person who's first that turn has the option to do that. But in terms of rolling, we just usually roll all at the same time. All right, and so now the third player actually is first for this turn, and if I look and see what they have, they could decide if they want to do a re-roll. I mean, an egg tripled is just 3 points with the wasabi. Salmon tripled is 6 points. That's not bad. If they decided to re-roll, then they would have 2 of them. A chance they could get squid, but there's also a chance it could get worse. But I think it's a pretty good chance. So they're going to try the re-roll, and they can re-roll as many as they want. And so I would say they might try re-rolling all 3 of these just to see if they don't get anything good on nigiri, they might get something good on the purple die for tempura. So they're going to re-roll them, and they get a sashimi, which doesn't help, and then their nigiri turned out exactly the same. So it's kind of a wasted re-roll, but it was worth a shot. So I think they would take the salmon and they put it on top of the wasabi to show they're dipping it in the wasabi, and now that salmon, instead of being 2 points, is worth 6 points. For my turn, I definitely don't really want this egg nigiri to be what I dip in my wasabi. And I see 3 eggs showing right now. So none of those seem too appealing to me. And I don't really see anything that I want to steal. So I think I'll just take a dumpling this round. And then we get to this second player, third in this turn. And I think this player's not really seeing anything. Well, actually, you know what? There's a couple of sashimi, which are hard to get. And so this player is going to say, you know what, I'm swapping. And they could swap me or that person. So they're probably just going to maybe, they don't want to give me another chance to get this. So maybe let's spread out these reds. So they may say, you know what, I'm going to give you this red, and I'm going to take that one from you. So now this person has 2 of the sashimi. So they're up to 6 points. And now we've all played 3, and the conveyor belt moves again. All right. Okay. And then we re-roll, and this time I'm first. Maybe we'll just do 1 more roll, and then we'll talk about scoring. We can simulate the end of the rest of the round. Instead of you having to watch me just keep rolling dice over and over again, since I have to do them all myself. You can save a little time after this one. So, all right, so you can see that the red tile now, the red conveyor belt is back in front of me, so I would have the first turn. And again, I'm looking around, I'm seeing a salmon and I'm seeing an egg and an egg. So I don't really see that anybody is going to be necessarily trying to use those nigiri. So I think I'm going to hold off on that. Nobody has taken any of the maki yet, so that would be an option to maybe see if I can do that. And yeah, I don't really see anything great. I could just try to re-roll all of it. So maybe let's do that. I'm just going to re-roll all 4. I don't see much great in my roll anyway. So I'm going to re-roll all 4. Oh, wow, that turned out worse for the maki. 2 singles. It does give me a salmon. I think I'm going to hold off, though, and see if I can somehow win that squid. So I'm going to wait on that, and I'll just take that dumpling. I'm going to risk it. Over here, he's got a clear choice. Yep. they're definitely going to take that sashimi. That gives them 13 points. And over here for this one, yeah, they really want a tempura, and they could try to re-roll to get that tempura, so I think they might do that. Let's see, they'll do a re-roll, and maybe they'll just re-roll all of them too. Just none of them are great, so they're going to re-roll all 4, and they didn't do a whole lot better either. They got a single pudding and a double maki, which is the same, but they did get the tempura, so that did help them a lot. So they got the tempura now, which gives them 5 for tempura instead of just 1. So that's a really good advantage for them. And then we go again. All right. Now, normally we would just keep re-rolling every turn, but just to make it quicker, I'm just going to play without re-rolling just to get through the end of this round so I can show you how the end of round scoring works. So pretend we're re-rolling, and this is what I got and they got. So at this point, this player doesn't see much on their board and not seeing a whole lot else that they would want, but they've got a lot of re-roll tiles, so they are going to re-roll. And yeah, they got a triple maki. So no one else has maki going right now, so they'll do that. This player here is thinking, you know what, I really need to get some pudding, so I'm not totally out of the race on that. And for me, I'm looking and thinking, you know what, I'm running out of options, but let's just go with the maki and keep risking it. And so then we rotate again. I guess I could just roll, and there's only 2. It doesn't take that long, I suppose. But so we can re-roll, and this person gets a double maki and a salmon. I get a triple maki and a salmon, and they get a pudding and an egg. And so now I'm thinking, you know what? I'm probably going to have to take that salmon. Here they could take maki for 2, but they're probably, well, they would tie me, and I probably won't take it. So I would give them 3 points. They're going to try that. And I'm starting to feel like, you know what? I definitely want to get some points out of this wasabi, so I'm taking the salmon. I don't want to necessarily have to re-roll next time. And then this person here, they didn't really get much good, but they do have a lot of re-roll tiles, so they're just going to keep pushing up luck. And hey, it turned out well because they got a triple pudding, so that was good for them. And then we go to the last one, and we all roll again. Oops, did that wrong. Comes here. Right. And so we re-roll. Salmon, double, salmon. Okay, so this person's going to take, I'm first, sorry. So salmon, and then they'll take the double, and then they'll take the salmon. And so now we do end of round scoring. We're at the end of the first round. And so since I started and it's back to me, I'll just be the first one to score. It's not really critical who scores first. We don't get any points for these tiles yet. That only happens at the end of the game. And we don't get any points for pudding yet, but we do get tiles to make sure we keep track of how many. So a 3 for me means I can put 3 in my bank over here to remind me that I earned 3. And then this salmon with wasabi is 6 points. So I can take 6 points here, the point counters. And then I got 2 dumplings, so that's 4 more points. So I'll turn these 6 in and claim a 10. And then I get 2 points for the salmon nigiri. And then let's see, it's 2, 2, and 5. So this player and I are tied for second place. So I would get 3 points for second place on the maki. And so I'll just turn in those 2 and take a 5. And so I ended up that round with 15 points. And when we're done, we put all the dice back in the bag. This player has 3 of the sashimi, so that's 13 points. So you get their 13 points. And then they have these 2 menus, which they already got, but that doesn't earn any points. And then they also have a triple pudding, so that gives them this. And then they got first place for the maki, so that gives them 6. So they have 19 points. And then they'll put theirs back in the bag. All right. And then this player has 2 tempura for 5 points. So let's see, there's 5. And then so that's that. And then they got a triple salmon for 6. Oops. So that's another 6. Let's see, running out of 5. So here we go. 6. And then they got third place here. So that gives them another 3. Or sorry, second place there. They tied me, so that gives them 3 points. 2 points for salmon, so we can turn those back in for a 5. and then no points for the pudding, but they do get 2 tiles to show that they have 2 pudding. All right, and then we put their dice back into the bag, and we would be going to the second round now. I won't run through the second round, but you shake up the dice. And then when there's, one of the things I mentioned earlier, when there's 3 players, there's a special thing you need to do. And you'll notice that I started as the red player, so I went first last turn, and because of 3-player rotation, I end up back with it again. And so the way that you account for that in a 3-player game is at the end of the round, you rotate it 1 more spot, even though there's no dice on it. And that means this player will become the first player for this round. All right, so after 1 round, this player has 19 points, I have 15, and this person has 16. All right, then we would do the same rotation. So we would draw 7, we would roll, we would go through the same route for the second round, and it was the scoring works the same in the second round, and then we would do the same thing for a third round. We would put the dice back in, shake them up, draw 7 again, go through the same routine, and then at the end of the third round, you would score the dice the same way. But then after that, you score the end of round bonuses. So let's just assume it was a really low scoring game somehow, and these are the only points we had after 3 rounds and the tiles that we had left. So we'll score this person's first if it were the end of the game. So they have 4 tiles. They've got 3 rerolls and a swap, so that would earn them 2 more points. And then they have 3 pudding, and I also have 3 pudding, and this person has 2. So they would earn 6 points because they and I are tied for first place. So we'll take 4 away, give them another 10, and that's their total score. And then we come over here. If this were the end of the game, they have 3 tiles left. That's just worth 1 point. And then they are last in pudding because they only have 2 where we both have 3. So they would lose 6 points, so ouch. And then for me, I tied for first place with the pudding, so that gives me 6 points. And then I have 4 tiles left, so that's 2 more points. And so I end up with 23 points. This person only has 11, but this person blew us away with 27 points. And that's how you play Sushi Roll. I hope that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. I think I mentioned this before, but just as a reminder, in case I didn't, these tiles can be played in any order, so and multiple times per your turn. So if I wanted to steal something from someone else's, not plate, but conveyor belt, I could use the swap tile and steal it. Maybe it's the last purple die on the board, and I really need to get a sashimi to get those 13 points. I really want to. I could steal it with a swap tile, and then I could re-roll with a re-roll tile to see if I could get it to give me the outcome I need. So I can push my luck that way. So that's something that's kind of interesting about this game. So that's a quick overview. I hope it makes sense, and like I said, I hope I didn't make any mistakes in running through the rules. In terms of a review, I really like this game. It's not necessarily one of my favorites all time, but it's one that I enjoy well enough that if anyone said, "Hey, let's play Sushi Roll," I'd say, "Oh yeah, sure," and I would pull it off the shelf and be ready to go. It's entertaining, it's quick. I think it's a nice filler game if you have a group that just wants to push through a game in 20 minutes between maybe doing heavier games or while you're waiting on the rest of your gaming group to show up. It's attractive, the dice are cute, the tiles are nice. It's just really well produced in my opinion. So I like the game quite a bit. I've also played Sushi Go. We own Sushi Go, and then my daughter has Sushi Go Party, so we've played that with her. And Sushi Go is, if you're not familiar, it's the same concept, but just with cards, no dice. Very simplified. It's just a small little tin. In fact, I might have it right here behind me. I can just grab it real quick. Yeah, I do. All right, so this is the Sushi Go, and it's just cards. So it's a similar concept, but only with cards. Very much more simple and doesn't have the dice rolling, obviously. And so it's fun too. I enjoy it, but I would probably always choose this one, even though that one's simpler. If I were traveling, I would take that one, but if I were at home, I would choose this one. I like the complexity of being able to swap and re-roll. Those options just don't come up in the Sushi Go. The Sushi Go Party I don't have, but it's a lot like Sushi Go in the sense that it uses cards, but then it has a menu board and it has a lot more desserts, not just pudding. It has a lot more appetizers, and you choose each game what appetizers and puddings you're going to use, and they all have different scoring mechanisms and they all have different advantages. I've only played that one once, so I don't have it really committed well to memory what all the different new desserts and appetizers are, but it gives a lot of variability to the game. If I were to compare the three, I would say if I'm traveling, I would pick Sushi Go. It's small, it's easy, people can pick it up really quickly, you can play a game in just a short amount of time. Everyone that I've played with seems to enjoy it. If I'm at home and can take my pick, I would pick Sushi Roll. I probably would rank Sushi Go Party third, although I still like it, but probably third for me just because it takes a little longer to set up. You've got to pick out the cards depending on which desserts you want to use and which appetizers you want to use. So there's a little bit more to the setup and the advantages of those new. It gives a lot of replayability because you have different combinations of desserts and appetizers and things that you can use, and in the rules I believe there were even some suggestions on some good combos you can put together. So it is fun and it does give a lot of replayability, but to me at least, it didn't really give the extra excitement into the game for the extra setup time that it requires. So of the three, I would think my favorite is Sushi Roll, but I enjoy all three. Sushi Roll, I think I would rate 7 out of 10 because it's one of those games where if someone said, hey, let's play, I wouldn't turn them down. I'd be happy to play. But it's also not one of my favorite games of all time. So, but it is a very nice game, one that we'll get a lot of use out of and one that we'll enjoy for several years, I think. So I hope that makes sense. Hope that you enjoyed the playthrough and the review. And thanks again for watching. This is Billy, Indiana.
Oh.